Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is Market Today, a show where we'll help you understand all the latest cues from the D Street, starting from the benchmark index moves to all the sectoral action, as well as all the stocks that are moving in trade and are buzzing in action as well, and what should be your own investment strategy in the current market scenario. We'll get you expert views on that, but first up, a quick check on how the markets are doing at this point in time. Let's first look at the benchmarks, the Nifty and the Sensex. Slight uptick is what you can spot. In fact, doing better than the morning trade, 18,171. Currently for the Nifty, 84 points up in trade. The Sensex up by 260 odd points, 61,459. So definitely a bounce from yesterday's losses is what we can see, after the Fed has actually perhaps signaled the end of the rate hike cycle as well. The Nifty gainers include stocks from the Adani basket. Adani Enterprises up in trade, SBI Life, BPCL, some of the top gainers up by almost 2.5 to 3.5% in trade. Asian Paints has bounced back, HDFC Life, Bajaj Finance. You do see a lot of financial services names and oil and gas names also buzzing in trade. The metals are doing better as well. Tata Steel up by 1.5%, Bharti Airtel, HDFC Bank also up in trade. So the banks and the financial services are the stocks to watch out for today. What's not doing well, on the contrary, is some stocks from the power basket. Power Grid is down in trade. Tata Consumer Products, ICICI Bank from the private banking space is down by almost 1%. Look at the ONGC counter, that's continuously looking, kind of sluggish in today's trade, about 1% down. IndusInd Bank, UPL also down in trade. So some of those private banks are definitely in those top losers list as well. ITC now seeing some profit booking. NTPC and Nestle also down in trade by half odd percent. But let's welcome our guest on the show. Mr. Avinnash Gorakshakar joins in from Profitmart Research. Thank you so much, sir, and for taking the time out for this discussion. First up, your own thoughts on how you looking at the market and the structure of the markets right now. We've had this big meeting of the Fed now passed by, and the kind of statements that have come about signaling perhaps the end of the rate hike cycle. How would that mean, and what would that mean for the markets?
Yeah, I think good afternoon, Sakshi. I think see yesterday's Fed rate increase of 25 basis points was on expected lines, and I think the commentary has come in slightly dovish. But I think one should bear in mind that inflation still continues to be pretty high, and I think until inflation actually comes down to the targeted level of 2% of the Fed, it's very unlikely that rate hikes could possibly see a pause. So I think despite the commentary given by the Fed governor, our sense is that one will have to observe for the next couple of months how inflation pans out,
Yeah.
what is the kind of bond yields happening, and then I think the markets would take cues from that factor. So net, I think nothing so bad, but I think the next couple of months are going to be very important, Sakshi, to take a call as to how this inflation fear pans out in the market globally. Because
Correct.
once inflation pauses, then I think you could see a significant regret.
Got that. So we'll keep an eye out on how things move on the inflation front, and then thereby globally, how do the central banks really approach the rate policy, rate action as well. But let's focus on some of the stocks that are in news and in focus. Reliance Industries, the biggest stock listed on the stock exchanges, is in focus because Mukesh Ambani has now secured the approval of shareholders and creditors of Reliance Industries to now demerge Reliance Strategic Investments Limited, that is RSIL, from Reliance Industries, and RSIL will now be renamed Jio Financial Services Limited, and as part of the demerger scheme, RIL shareholders will now get one share of Jio Financials for every share they own when the company gets listed as well. Now this news was being anticipated, Mr. Gorakshakar, from a long time on D Street. Now that the needle is finally moving, what do you expect? How soon do we really expect the demerger to take place and then the IPO coming about?
I think Sakshi, for this stock to get listed, it could take some time. I think we could see the listing possibly in September or October. These are as per market reports. But I think what is going to happen is that once Geo Financial gets listed separately, a whole basket of products from the financial services space is going to be made available by the Reliance Group. And most importantly, initially it will be targeting the Geo customers, which are roughly about 40 to 45 crores. So they have a ready captive, customer basket, and I think it's going to mean a lot of competition for the existing players like
Yeah.
Bajaj Finance and other financial intermediaries. So I think it's going to be very exciting, but at the same time, customers are in for a good period. They would obviously get the best deals at the best prices. So I think a lot of expectations are there from this company, which is going to create a very big disruption in the financial services space.
You're right. We'll talk about the disruption and how that will mean and what that will mean for the entire financial services space in India. But from the company's own perspective, if you can help the wider range of our viewers, why the demerger? What is the thought process behind it, and what will be in it for the existing shareholders of Reliance Industries?
See, already the distribution ratio, Sakshi, has been finalized. Shareholders of Reliance will be getting one share of Jio Financial for one share held in Reliance. And the reason why this demerger has been done is largely to unlock value to the shareholders of Reliance. I think on a standalone basis, this business will have a very strong kind of, growth momentum and a growth kind of path, considering the fact that they start with a very big basic advantage of having a captive customer base in terms of the Jio customers. And
Hmm.
as they first tap into those customers, there are many non-Geo customers also which are likely to use the services of Geo Financial. So I think right from asset management, wealth management, broking, there are many areas which possibly this company could enter. And I think Reliance has always been a kind of a company which has believed in offering the best quality at the most affordable price. So it would possibly use the same principle in financial services and create a kind of a massive disruption in terms of pricing and delivery of their financial services to the final customer.
Okay, but would you recommend investors to buy Reliance Industries ahead of the demerger to also get the benefit of the newly listed Jio Financial Services when it gets listed?
Demerge separately. We could look at an IPO for Geo Telecom business. The retail business is also going to be demerged at a particular point of time and is doing very well. So I think a lot of value unlocking remains to be done. So I would suggest that investors should use this opportunity to build Reliance in their portfolios. You could probably look at levels of even 2,900 to 3,000 in the next, say, at least 12 to 18 months. The stock has consolidated, but I think there's a lot of value for investors who can actually patiently wait, because once the event happens, the stock would definitely get re-rated in a big way.
Right, but would you recommend as a strategy to go in a staggered fashion to add Reliance Industries, or should one just take it as an opportunity to buy lump sum to create a big bank of Reliance Industries shares in their portfolio?
See, I think lump sum investment in this market would not be advisable, but I would say that considering that the stock has moved up from 2,300 odd levels, I think anything between 2,300 to 2,450, is a good entry point. I would not be surprised that the stock may not get corrected significantly, but
Yeah.
investors can do a small SIP regularly till the time the official record date for the demerger is not announced.
Absolutely. We do not know the details of the IPO at all right now, the valuations that it will come in at, the prices that it will come in at. But would it make sense for investors to keep even Jio Financial as part of their radar to as and when it gets listed or the IPO comes about, that as a potential IPO to invest in?
Yeah, I think Sakshi, initially Jio Financial will be listed in the markets like a separate security. So investors who don't want to buy Reliance and want to wait for the stock to get listed sometime in September or October could
Hmm.
possibly look at buying this, because a lot of excitement and a lot of news flows would obviously revolve around it. And I think financial services is one area where the Reliance Group is extremely positive and very aggressive. So I think definitely one could look at even looking at buying the stock when it gets listed. So it's obviously a good investment, provided investors stay in here for the longer term.
Got it. And now talking about the kind of competition that Geo Financial Services can actually create in the multi-billion-dollar financial services industry, what kind of disruptions do we expect here? There are reports that suggest that Geo Financials could actually be India's fifth largest financer in terms of net worth and bigger than the likes of Kotak Mahindra Bank or even Bajaj Finance. So looking at that kind of perspective, all those investors who've been building their portfolio with these big names from the NBFC space, how should one be really approaching their investments in this space now?
No, I think, Sakshi, first of all, the market size for non-banking finance companies and financial services in India is a very large market. So, it may not be visible in the very first 3 to 6 months. But
Okay.
typically, Reliance has always taken time to settle down. But once they settle down, I think competitive pricing, competitive disruption in various segments like auto finance, consumer durable finance, even short-term financing, all these areas are open for Reliance to enter. And obviously, companies like Bajaj Finance, companies like IDFC First, or for that reason, even banks like Kotak Bank could obviously feel the competition. margins could come under pressure because Reliance has always believed in volumes rather than in margins. So I think it remains to be seen how quickly and how smoothly the execution takes place, because before they take off, I think a lot of infrastructure and a lot of execution planning has to be done. So I think you'll see the disruption effects happening, from the first half of next financial year, that is from FY25 onwards. It may not happen immediately, but gradually, I think from FY25 onwards, you could see the disruption happening. And at that point of time, one would have to see in relative terms how Bajaj Finance is faring or how Kotak Mahindra Finance is faring. But definitely, competitive intensity will grow faster.
Okay, understood that. So that's as far as Reliance Industries and the opportunities that remain for investors to look at amid the demerger news flow of Jio Financials and upcoming listing in the September-October months as well. And we'll continue to watch this space for you to tell you more about it as and when the news flow begins. But moving on from Reliance Industries, a whole host of other stocks and spaces are also in focus today. I wanted to take your view on Titan, for example. After the Q4 results, we've seen the profit surging 50% on a year-on-year basis, the revenue jumping 33%, focus on the jewelry business as well. Your own thoughts on Titan at 2672, it's up by 0.6% today after the earnings. How should one approach this stock?
No, I think numbers have been very strong, and I think this kind of momentum. Hopefully, our sense is that from the business update and the management commentary of Titan, I think FY24 also will be a very strong year, especially for the jewelry branded business. And most importantly, I think the kind of opportunity which Titan is seeing in the gold jewelry market, because a lot of unorganized demand is getting converted on the organized market side. So there's a headroom, significant headroom for growth available. So my sense is, investors who are already holding the stock should obviously hold on, but fresh investment, Sakshi, should be done at slightly lower levels. I think if the market corrects and you get an opportunity to buy the stock at lower levels, that could possibly give you a better risk reward, over the longer term.
Got that. Okay. And apart from Titan, let's also shift focus to the aviation space at large because that is also going through some kind of turbulence. Mr. Gorakshakar, are you surprised with what is really happening in the aviation space with Go First looking at bankruptcy now? And what would that really mean for the existing larger players in the listed market when you talk about Indigo, the kind of valuations it commands right now and the kind of market share that will be available if the liquidation really goes through in the NCLT? What would this entire thing mean for the existing players like Indigo, SpiceJet? Very less space for Jet Airways because that is also a defunct airline and we've not seen it taking off really.
No, I think, within the aviation space, we have seen three companies going under. That is Jet, also, typically, all the other two airlines which have gone under have actually gone down because of excessive debt on the balance sheet. So I think
Yeah.
it's going to be very important that, players like Indigo, Air India, these are going to be the larger players which fit into the bill and which would obviously capitalize on the bankruptcy of any new airline. Now, if you talk about Go First, they had been incurring losses for the last 3 years. And typically, when debt goes beyond a particular level where cash flows are not, supported, are not being supported. And most importantly, this is a fixed cost business where most of the airlines, if their aircrafts are grounded, that creates a big issue. So Go Air has definitely created a little bit of problem for themselves by buying into aircrafts which have faulty engines, and that is the reason the airline has no choice but to go and say that it wants to go in for bankruptcy, which is a voluntary call. So I think you will probably see a lot of action in Indigo. Air India is not listed, so Indigo will be the preferred listed company which possibly would see a lot of market share expansion in this kind of scenario.
Got that. Well, thank you so much, Avinnash, for being with us on the show and discussing with us all these insights about the various topics in discussion in focus today and all those stocks that are buzzing in trade and how should investors be really approaching their investments into all of these pockets. Many thanks for being with us. The markets right now up and about. You can see 61,479 right now on the Sensex. It's up by 284 points and 85 points of a jump on the Nifty as well. It's at 18,176. So a half odd percent kind of a move on the upside for the benchmark indices. Looking good as we speak right now, but the second half of trading action is what we will continue to focus on. Last 2.5 hours of trade, whether we do see further bounce from these levels, or is there anything that continues to worry the market as well, because there's constant focus on how the Go First bankruptcy is going to take place. What would that mean for all the lenders, the lessors, and the aviation space? All of these will be continuing to be in our focus, and we continue to track it as well. And you should be with us while we track this as well. So don't forget to subscribe to this platform and also continue to engage with us on our other social media platforms as well. Until then, many thanks for tuning in.